My number 10 is Loss of Life by MGMT.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I was so worried this wasn't going to get
so here's
representation.
The thing. This wasn't on my list because, again, this is one of those albums. It came out in, I think, February.
Yeah, really
and
early.
just got completely lost. It was one of those things that just got kind of buried. And whenever I was talking about like really rediscovering and diving back in these last few weeks leading up to this pod, this is one that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot. I like obsessively listened to this album whenever it first came out. This was like the first really great album of the year that I could not stop listening to. And I think that what's interesting about this is that I think that this album in particular hit me at a good point in my life. Like if they would have put out Loss of Life when Little Dark Age came out in 2016, I don't think it would have resonated for me. I think it's something,
though, absolutely hit.
Yeah, well, because Little Dark Age it's 80s, it's electronic, dancey, it's pop. Like that is kind of something that they did. And it's funny, in true MGMT fashion, they're like, too many people like us now. We got to get weird again.
I know. We should have known they would do like a congratulations.
They have to. They have to put out another like just something get real weird, which means hopefully we don't have a self-titled following this one up because it's the worst album. But
the pattern continues.
I think like to go on with your point about like if this was released in 2016, which is a very popular theme in my list, is that a lot of these artists like grew up with us.
Yeah.
So it's like
it's been over a decade.
It didn't make sense because in 2016 they were like in a similar point as you. So it was like, you're kind of like going off the same vibe, but like now, Loss of Life at this point, it's just like, it grew up with you.
Yeah.
Now, like it kind of sits better with you because you grew up with them.
It's something, and sorry, it was 2018, not 2016, excuse me. Cause I remember we were doing the pod. I think that Little Dark Age was your number one that year. Yeah. I think it was on our list, but your number one, great job by you because that album is aged like fine wine. But I think that is something that they're clearly just always trying to reinvent themselves, these two dudes. And of course, like their next move after going from 80s synth pop is like, we want to do 80s psych rock ballads. And that's kind of just more of the sound they're trying to do is create this wild sonic landscape, which they've always done. I mean, especially Congratulations does an impeccable job of just like listen to that thing with great headphones and you just get so much more out of it. And I feel a lot of the same feelings about Congratulations as I do about this one, where
I think there are like 4 or 5 songs that could just be on Congratulations.
Yeah.
Like if you told me it was on that, I'd be like, oh yeah, probably.
I think that especially at the beginning of the album with Mother Nature, Dancing in Babylon, which are two of like in my short list or my long list of my favorite songs of the year. Love both of those. I Wish I Was Joking is another like really, really standout track, but I kind of just like how it's not like I'm trying to think of the complete right word for it, but how like noisy they can be at times. I think that if there is one theme with my list, there's a lot of noise that I was listening to.
I just like that they're getting weird.
Yeah,
they're not
weird, man.
They're not afraid to keep pushing.
Finally, MGMT gets weird.
I just think that if you listen to Oracular, like you maybe thought weird back then when it came out, but now you wouldn't.
Yeah. And that also, a lot of that was like the product of the way it got produced, because if you listen to like the first version of Kids, for example, it sounds like way shittier, like just sound quality wise. It doesn't sound like big. I mean, I love these guys. I honestly, I'll admit it's one that kind of got lost for me because it came out so early because I want to say I drafted it in our like pre-year drafts because
someone did.
The singles I listened to all the time and some of them are still my favorite songs on the album. And so I found myself just like going back to the singles a lot.
I think Mother Nature ended up being in my top 5 songs of the year that I just played like all the time, just
on Spotify Rap.
Yeah. And that actually Spotify Rap was one of the things I was just like, oh yeah, I did listen to the album like a fuck ton when it came out. I should probably go back
like
and look
reminded
at that.
you.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's MGMT Loss of Life. It's Hunter's number 10.